The diner off Route 9 had seen better days, but Tom Morrison didn't mind. At 72, with a prosthetic leg hidden beneath worn jeans and scars that told stories he'd never speak aloud, he'd learned that the best coffee often came from the most weathered places. He sat alone in a corner booth, his Navy SEAL trident pin barely visible on his faded cap, nursing his third cup of black coffee when the rumble of motorcycles shattered the quiet Tuesday afternoon. The sound grew louder, angrier, until it seemed to shake the very foundation of the small roadside establishment. 8 bikers swaggered through the door, leather vests adorned with skulls and flames, their boots heavy against the checkered floor. They were loud, demanding, filling the space with aggressive energy, the kind of men who'd learned to take up space without earning it. Tom kept his eyes on his coffee, watching the steam rise in delicate spirals, hoping they'd ignore an old man seeking nothing but peace and a moment of solitude. What happened next would change everything, but none of them knew it yet. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone standing up for our veterans. But peace was not what they offered. "Hey, old-timer," the largest one called out, his voice dripping with mockery, his breath carrying the stale smell of beer and cigarettes. "That's our booth." Tom looked up slowly, his weathered face betraying no emotion, recognizing the lie immediately. They had no claim here, only appetite for cruelty and the need to feel powerful at someone else's expense. He started to rise, his prosthetic leg making the movement deliberate and visible, the slight mechanical whir barely audible. The bikers noticed immediately. Their laughter came quick and ugly, echoing off the walls. "Look at this guy! Can't even stand upright!" Another one sneered, pushing closer, invading Tom's personal space with aggressive intent. "What happened, Grandpa? Forget how to ride a bike. Or did you fall off your walker?" The others joined in, their circle tightening like predators surrounding wounded prey. Tom felt the familiar weight of old battles pressing down on him. The ones fought in distant jungles under impossible odds, and the quieter ones fought every day since coming home. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear or weakness, but from the tremendous restraint required not to show them what those hands had once been trained to do, what they were still capable of even after all these years. The waitress Marie, a kind woman in her 50s who always remembered his order and asked about his grandson, looked terrified behind the counter, her hand hovering near the phone. Tom caught her eye and shook his head gently, a silent communication built over months of friendly conversation. Don't call the police. Don't escalate. He'd survived worse than bullies in a roadside diner. He'd survived missions that remained classified, losses that still haunted his dreams, pain that would have broken lesser men. One biker, emboldened by the pack mentality, reached for Tom's cap with rough hands, snatching it from his head and tossing it across the room like a child's toy. The SEAL trident glinted briefly in the harsh fluorescent light before disappearing under a table near the jukebox. "Please," Tom said quietly, his voice steady despite everything, despite the humiliation and the anger building in his chest. "I don't want trouble." His calm seemed to infuriate them more. They wanted a reaction, craved the power of making someone break, needed to see fear in his eyes. But Tom Morrison hadn't broken when his team was pinned down in enemy territory, hadn't broken when he lost his leg saving 3 younger SEALs from an I-Dade, and he wouldn't break here in this small-town diner over coffee and pride. What the bikers didn't know, couldn't possibly understand, was that Marie had pressed a different button under the counter one, connected not to police dispatch, but to a phone number Tom had given her months ago when he first started coming here. Just in case, he'd said with that quiet smile of his, "Just in case something happens, and I need backup." She'd laughed then, thinking he was joking. She wasn't laughing now as she watched these men torment a genuine hero. 20 minutes passed like 20 hours, each second stretching into eternity. The bikers had grown bolder, knocking over Tom's coffee and watching it spread across the table, blocking his exit with their bodies, their taunts becoming threats that grew darker and more aggressive. Tom remained seated, breathing slowly and deliberately, using techniques learned decades ago to maintain composure under pressure. He thought of his team, of brothers lost in faraway mountains and brothers still living who carried the same scars, visible and invisible. He thought of the code they'd lived by, the promise that had sustained them through hell itself. Leave no man behind. Then the door opened again. This time, complete silence followed. 6 men entered, and everything about them screamed professional, capable, dangerous. Their bearing was unmistakable, even in civilian clothes, jeans and t-shirts that couldn't hide what they were. They moved with purpose, with precision honed through countless missions, scanning the room in seconds and assessing every threat, every exit, every variable. The youngest one, maybe 40, with close-cropped hair and eyes that had seen combat, locked eyes with Tom and smiled, the kind of smile that said family had arrived. "Master Chief Morrison," he said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute respect and something deeper reverence. "We got your signal." The bikers turned, their expression shifting from confusion to recognition to fear. Their bravado crumbled like sand castles before the tide as they recognized what stood before them. These weren't men you mess with. These weren't weekend warriors playing dress-up. These were actual warriors, forged in the crucible of the world's most elite military unit. And the old man they'd been tormenting wasn't just a random disabled veteran. He was their legend, their teacher, their brother, a master chief who trained some of them personally and inspired all of them. The lead SEAL, Commander Hayes, stepped forward, his presence filling the room with unspoken authority. His voice was soft but harder than steel, carrying the weight of righteous anger held in perfect check. "Gentlemen, I believe you owe our Master Chief an apology." And his hat. Now, before we continue, if this story is touching your heart, please subscribe and turn on notifications. These stories need to be heard, and your support helps us honor heroes like Tom. The bikers scrambled, suddenly small, suddenly aware of the magnitude of their mistake and how badly they'd misjudged their target. They retrieved the cap with shaking hands, mumbled apologies that sounded hollow and pathetic, and fled like shadows before dawn, their motorcycles roaring to life in desperate escape. Tom stood, his brothers surrounding him in a protective circle, helping him to his feet not because he needed it physically, but because that's what family does, what brothers do. Hayes placed the cap back on Tom's head with gentle hands, adjusting the trident pin with the care one might show a sacred relic. "No man left behind, Master Chief," Hayes said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not ever. Not on deployment, not at home, not anywhere." Tom smiled, his eyes wet with tears he'd held back for decades. Tears for brothers lost, for battles won and lost, for the simple beauty of being remembered and valued. In that moment, surrounded by these warriors, he wasn't disabled, wasn't old, wasn't alone. He was exactly what he'd always been, a warrior among warriors, a brother among brothers, never forgotten, never abandoned, always protected by the bond forged in service and sealed in love that transcends time and circumstance. This story reminds us that respect isn't given freely. It's earned through sacrifice and service. And that true brotherhood never fades with time or distance. If this touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Let's honor our veterans, not just with words on holidays, but with action every single day. Drop a comment telling us about a veteran in your life who deserves recognition, who served quietly and asks for nothing in return. And remember, kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable and its impact eternal. Thank you for watching, and God bless those who serve and have served.